Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Nurses Association questions data being used to promote vaccine mandate for healthcare work. PAHO says lessons from COVID pandemic must be harnessed to face climate change. In sports, the West Indies record first win of 2021 ICC T20 World Cup in the United Arab Emirates. I'm Shane Masters. Here are the details. The Nurses Association of Jamaica, NAJ, is questioning the data being used to promote a COVID-19 vaccine or test mandate for healthcare workers and in particular public health nurses. The National COVID-19 Vaccination Operationalization Task Force earlier this week said with the exception of the Jamaica Defence Force, there has been a low vaccination rate among frontline workers. Anthony Lugg reports.
On Wednesday, the National COVID-19 Vaccination Operationalization Task Force issued recommendations which it believes could boost the country's uptake. Among them, vaccinating healthcare workers as a matter of priority.
We think it's very important to do so. We think we have lost more public health nurses and healthcare workers than we ought to. Only 50% of our public health nurses are vaccinated, roughly. It's also a particular problem because public health nurses are one of the most trusted sources of information on medical matters.
The task force also recommended that there be a period of public education before implementing the mandate to help increase take-up of the vaccine among the nurses. However, NAJ President Patsy Edwards Henry has fired back. She's disappointed with the recommendations, which she has deemed as premature.
I cannot agree that we are not taking the vaccine.
Well, the take-up rate is low.
We may be taking it a little slower than you and other persons expect us to take it. But I'm not going to say we are not taking the vaccine.
Point that I'm trying to make.
88% of the population has not yet been vaccinated. And you are now going to say to the nurses who are vaccinating the population to continue to care for that 88% that is not vaccinated while paying to care for them.
A few weeks ago, the Attorney General suggested that making the vaccination mandatory for healthcare workers is being considered. As the country awaits the government's decision, the NAJ president insists nurses are not against the COVID-19 vaccine, but have concerns similar to others in the population.
Right now, the recommendation is there. A whole lot of work needs to be done. A lot of work needs to be done to educate not only the population and the take-up, but to ensure that the numbers that they are putting out is correct. Because the ministry, if you call the ministry regions anywhere now, they cannot tell you exactly how many nurses have taken. So while we are targeting nurses, we need to make sure that our statistics are at a place where we can definitively say this is what is happening.
She was speaking on PAHO 106's Morning Agenda. Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
The Santa Cruz Police Station lockup in St. Elizabeth has been placed under quarantine following an assessment by the local health department. A team from the St. Elizabeth Health Department carried out COVID-19 testing and sanitizing of the cell block yesterday. No visits will be allowed until further notice. The police source said there is no confirmed case of COVID-19 on the cell block. The quarantine of the cell block will affect detainees who have matters before the parish courts. President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, John Mahfood, has expressed concern about giving preferential treatment to people who are vaccinated. Mr. Mahfood is of the view that the approach is counterproductive at this time.
So they need to start targeting particular groups and stand up and be strong. The government is almost afraid to take a strong position because of the backlash.
He's also calling for the government to implement stronger measures in a bid to get more Jamaicans vaccinated at a faster rate. He says with the current vaccination rate, the hope of getting 65% of the population inoculated by early next year may not be realized.
I did a little check and I see where to achieve that, we need to vaccinate 600,000 people per month. We are way off that.
Mm-hmm.
We are way off that, and at the rate we are going, without a plan, without a strategy, without the leadership that we need, we will be way into next year. Probably we will never reach that target.
Now, Mr. Mahfoud was speaking on PAHO 106 FM's Morning Agenda. 18 additional deaths have been recorded for the period March 11 to October 27. The death toll is now 2,217. The COVID-19 positivity rate has decreased to 12.2%. It comes as the country recorded 109 new cases of the virus from 1,226 test samples. The overall case count now stands at 88,775. 291 people have been hospitalized with the respiratory illness. 18 people are critically ill, while 22 are severely ill. There are 28,397 active cases on the island. In the meantime, 189 people have recovered in the last 24 hours, bringing the island's recovery rate to 57,551. Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, says lessons from COVID-19 pandemic must be harnessed to face climate change. It warned that countries prepare for the impact of climate change and prevent further crisis. Shamala Pulen reports.
With 800,000 new COVID-19 infections and 18,000 COVID-related deaths reported in the Americas last week, the Pan American Health Organization says the pandemic has offered a snapshot of how unprepared Latin America and the Caribbean were for such a disruptive event. PAHO's Assistant Director, Dr. Jarbas Barbosa, made the comments at this week's media briefing on COVID-19. He said high temperatures, extreme weather events, and pollutions have led to an increase in cardiovascular and respiratory diseases.
Our health systems will be challenged by these threats, and the same health systems have the primary responsibility to do no harm and reduce their environmental footprint. That's why we are encouraged that for the first time ever, health is taking center stage at this year's Climate Summit. Ahead of the summit, PAHO has launched an agenda for the Americas on health, environment, and climate change.
The dengue season has also increased due to the warmer, wetter weather. Dr. Barbosa says countries must provide a plan of action to address the risks posed by climate change to the health of the region, including the Caribbean.
To better anticipate and prevent future threats, health and animal surveillance, as well as climate and environment information systems, should be integrated to build a more robust early warning system for future crises. The second point I want to make is that countries must invest in their health system. As we've seen throughout the COVID pandemic, the success of our responses rests on our health system's ability.
Shamela Pulen, TVJ News.
A vaccine mandate will take effect at the St. Mary Municipal Corporation come next Monday. That's according to the chairman of the corporation, Richard Cruz, who is charging councillors to lead by example. Sandra Williams reports.
Effective November 1, 2021, councillors and staff at the St. Mary Municipal Corporation will have to show proof of vaccination before entry to the establishment. Richard Cruz is the corporation's chairman.
What we want is that you wouldn't have to travel with the card every day or every time you are coming here, but provide the information to... Right. So provide the information to the CEO or whoever she designates to handle that information.
He says the time has come for persons who wish to participate in face-to-face meetings to be vaccinated.
In order for us to continue having face-to-face meetings, persons who will participate in those meetings physically, meaning being present in this room, would need to show proof of vaccination. That does not mean that you cannot join virtually, but to be physically present in the room, you need to show proof of vaccination.
However, there is an alternative, the provision of a negative PCR test. At the latest municipal corporation meeting, Mr. Query used the opportunity to press councillors to take the jab. He pointed out that Cabinet recently returned to face-to-face meetings after it was confirmed that Cabinet ministers and support staff had been vaccinated.
I am not about forcing anyone who does not want to take the vaccine to take it, right? But I think we need to lead by example as the St. Mary Municipal Corporation, and in this room, we should at least ensure that persons entering this room for meetings are vaccinated.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Vendors waiting for the reopening of a Melrose Yam Park in Manchester will have to be retrained. That's according to Chief Public Health Inspector for the parish, Charmaine Palmer-Cross. Her recommendation comes against a background that some vendors have been using the facility for things outside of its original purpose.
They have now turned it into a restaurant, and therefore the requirements for a restaurant versus a food shop or a smaller facility are really different. And if it is that they are now conducting the practices of a restaurant, then we have to ask for a restaurant requirement.
The Yam Park was ordered closed in August this year by the Manchester Health Department for several health-related and infrastructural issues to be corrected.
There were issues that affected the entire facility, such as the wastewater disposal system, the issue with that, and the pest management and solid waste. So those were the three main reasons why because if you have pests, there's no way you can bar the pests from going into the others. So therefore, it will have to be a general consensus to deal with that.
In the meantime, Mayor of Mandeville, Donovan Mitchell, says while he supports retraining of the vendors, he's recommending that the other issues be expedited as people's livelihoods are being seriously impacted as a result of the closure. When business places in Negril, Westmoreland close for the curfew, it's usually time for another business to open. Our reporter Jamila Maitland takes us underground to see sex workers in the tourism hub.
The Norman Manley Boulevard, home to the top resorts and villas, and on Non-Pearl Road, the Negril sex work comes alive. The area is buzzing with activities, from food and pan jerk vendors to skimpily dressed private dancers and sex workers, each occupying a different stretch of the road. It's also a stone's throw away from the Negril police station, and while there at around 10:30 p.m., we noticed a service vehicle zoomed past us.
If them see us on the road after curfew, that's the time they will give us trouble. But otherwise, them now go just sue we and trouble. So, but like you see, a lot of person out here,
if they come, them
and
gone.
Them have to disappear because after curfew.
Nobody know I get charged.
It's also where we met Skywalker.
We come out at night also. Sometimes we go on the beach. When we're not on the beach, is right here. It's a lot of us. We can't count because some of the girls stay in the day and most of the girls come in the night.
Like her, many of the women in her line of work are from different parishes. She's a mother during the daytime and a private dancer at night. Our cameras saw a woman signaling to men on bikes and curious motorists who sped off at the sight of the TVJ branded vehicle. According to the sex workers, a lot of their clients are tourists. On a good night, they'll make up to $200. However, since the pandemic, they reveal business has slowed down.
Once I make my money, I feel like I'm comfortable when I make my money. When I really push or rush nothing.
How much money that make like in a night?
In a night, sometimes depends, all the 20 grand up, yeah. When it's fast like that.
The women who've been working in the industry for years say October and September are usually the slow months. But as the winter season approaches, they're already preparing for an influx of clients. Jamila Maitland, TVJ News.
And it's now time for the Business Minute. The management of Scotiabank Jamaica has reportedly agreed to meet with the Bustamante Industrial Trade Union, BITU, today to discuss an impending restructuring exercise. It's reported that the restructuring will result in changes to some branches and the consolidation of another. BITU President Kevin Gale told TVJ News that Scotiabank workers have become restive since being informed of the upcoming changes.
We have requested an urgent meeting. The bank has agreed to meet with us at 2 p.m. this afternoon. This is where we intend to have a clearer understanding in terms of what this restructuring will entail. And in our minds, this is going to be the start of a consultation. It is our intention to mitigate against job losses.
Earlier this year, Scotiabank closed some of its rural branches and transformed 6 branches into digital operations. Listed company Caribbean Cream says it plans to commission a combined heat and power plant by the end of this year. At its annual general meeting this week, General Manager Ryan Peralta said the plant should reduce energy costs and the company's carbon footprint. Meanwhile, the company says it has finalized the design of a new cold room to be located on South Road in Kingston, next door to the current plant. It is scheduled to be put into operation during the 2022-2023 financial year. Mr. Peralta says the project should move the storage capacity of finished goods from a 260 pallet space to an 800 pallet space blast freezer capacity. And that's it for the Business Minute for this week. And it's now time for the top regional and international stories with Sandy Williams.
In the region, the Trinidad-based Caribbean Public Health Agency CARPHA says it stands ready to support the approval for recommendation of treatments against COVID-19, including the use of the drug molnupiravir. However, CARPHA Executive Director Dr. Joy St. John says such recommendations will be based on approval it receives from the World Health Organization, WHO. The announcement comes a day after the drug maker Merck & Company said it would license qualified pharmaceutical firms worldwide to produce the oral medication under an agreement with the United Nations-backed Medicine Patents Pool. On the international scene, an airstrike on the capital of the war-torn Tigray region in Ethiopia killed 10 people, including children, and injured 21 others on Thursday. According to a hospital official and rebel sources, the Ethiopia's military is responsible for the airstrike. The government said the strike hit a factory in Mekele used by the Tigray People's Liberation Front (TPLF). A government spokeswoman said the Air Force destroyed the second part of Mesfin Industrial Engineering and that the facility was being used by TPLF terrorist group for maintaining its military equipment. It was the deadliest of a new round of airstrikes that began last week as the year-long war intensifies. And that's the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your Midday Sports report. Simon Preston is standing by.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. The West Indies defeated Bangladesh by 3 runs in Sharjah today to record their first win of the 2021 ICC T20 World Cup. Batting first, the West Indies were restricted to 142 for 7 off their 20 overs, with Nicholas Pooran top scoring with 40. Roston Chase chipped in with 39, while Kieron Pollard added 14. Shoriful Islam was the most economical bowler for Bangladesh, with figures of 2 for 20. Ravi Rampal, Jason Holder, Akil Hussain, Dwayne Bravo and Andre Russell all took a wicket each. With 13 runs to win off the last over, Bangladesh were restricted to 9 runs, ending their innings on 139 for 5. Liton Das top scored with 44 for Bangladesh. The win takes the West Indies up to 5th in the table on 2 points. The Caribbean side will next be in action against Sri Lanka on Thursday in Abu Dhabi. The Windies will need to finish in the top 2 in order to advance to the semi-finals of the competition. And over in Group 2, Afghanistan posted 147 for 6 off their 20 overs against Pakistan in match 24 of the ICC T20 World Cup in Dubai. Captain Mohamed Nabi and Gulbuddin Naib top scored with 35 runs each. Former Jamaica Tallawah's bowler Ahmad Wazim took 2 for 25 for Pakistan. At sports time, Pakistan had reached 101 for 3 after 15 overs. T20 World Cup action continues on Saturday as Sri Lanka battles South Africa, while England entertains Australia. To football we go now, as reggae girl Drew Spence and Chelsea will face Aston Villa in the English Women's Super League on Saturday. Defending champions Chelsea are second in the table on 12 points, while Aston Villa, which is home to another reggae girl in Shania Hales, are 7th on 7 points. Kickoff is at 7:30 Jamaica time. On Sunday, Khadija Bunny Shaw and Manchester City will battle Paige Bailey Gale and Leicester City. Rebecca Spence, goalkeeper of Tottenham Hotspur, will entertain Manchester United also on Sunday. And that is it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. O'Shane, it is over to you.
Thanks, Simon. And that's the Midday News. I'm O'Shane Masters. Join us at 7 for primetime news. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.